You're tuning in to Barski-Lyn Adventures. Welcome to our little corner of the bookish community.
Hello, beautiful people of the bookish persuasion. Thank you so much for joining us today as we talk about reading, writing, and publishing. I'm CH Lynn. With me, as always, is my... I had meant to look up adjectives before this, and I was like, I'm going to have them ready. And then I didn't.
You can say towering co-host.
Towering and adorable co-host.
Tracy Barski. It's me.
You set me up for it. We are readers.
I sure did.
We are readers, writers, mothers, and wives. And we are here today discussing the rest of it.
Everything else.
Everything else. So we've talked a fair bit about how to write a book. And that was kind of the first, or how to publish a book, I guess, was kind of the first 5 episodes. And then we've discussed ISBN numbers. We've discussed content. We haven't done a deep dive into covers yet, but that's
platforms.
Yeah, platforms.
I mean, there are a lot of topics we've talked about.
Yes.
Sort of surface level. And a lot of things that we could go into more depth, but we haven't heard from people about what they want more in depth of. So we're just gonna wing
We
it.
have a few things. We just need to write them down and actually remember them when we start recording.
Sure.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about everything else that goes along with this career, basically. Being an indie author is fully having a job. Most of our friends also have jobs. Which we do too.
Our other
jobs
is
are taking care of small
and
children and husbands.
And home and
yeah. But fully lost it. So we're going to talk about everything else today. We're going to talk about social media. We'll talk a little bit about, probably a little bit more about covers and the publishing itself, because that is definitely a big part of it being a job. Talk about marketing and promotions, what ARC tours are, how to find people to be on your street team, etc., etc. Tracy's making a vase right now because she just started a forum for her street team. How's that going, by the way, Trace?
Good. I haven't checked it in a couple weeks. When I first posted about it, I need to post about it again to see if there's any other people who are interested. I think I had like 10 people.
That's a lot.
Maybe a little. It may have been fewer than 10.
I have fewer. I have fewer
countable nouns
than 10 on my street team.
It may have been 7.
I think that's how I think I have 7. No, I have maybe a dozen because I have 7 who are specifically located in New Zealand and Australia. Because Kels,
she targets them.
She's got she's from New Zealand, so she's got a whole group of friends. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. You've written a book, or you're planning to. You know you want to do self-publishing. What else, right? There's the book part of it, but what else? Social media. Social media is huge. Number one way to get your information and yourself and your book out there.
Brand yourself that way. That's how you find your niche, your people, what you like to post about, what's easy for you to post about. It's kind of an experiment.
Can you explain to people what a niche is for people who don't maybe know that term when it comes to bookish things?
Yeah, so not everyone is like this, but you will find that this is my advice generally to people who are just starting out. Because I don't feel like I'm very good at social media as far as posting and doing that kind of thing. I'm really good at engaging with people because I like to chit chat and like message. Like when I'm watching people's stories and I message, and do that kind of thing. But I'm not really good at giving little snippets of things from my life. Like there are people who are really good about inviting their audience into their world a little bit. People who do these videos where they're sitting there typing and doing that kind of stuff, or like, this is my writing space, and like, you know what, my writing space was wherever I happen to sit down. So a lot of that kind of stuff. It's not my jam. I was not really very good at posting. And I also started my social media like right when I published my book, which is not generally recommended, but it worked fine for me
Yeah.
because I found my niche, which was funny reels. And it was the lip syncing kind. Like I have, I think, maybe 2 reels that are me talking. The rest of them are the lip syncing ones, which say what you want to say about what's popular, what the algorithm is pushing right now. You ain't gonna catch me moving away from that because I just like it. It
Apparently,
kind of
that
plays to
is,
my
at the time of recording, that is what's popular. That's what's doing the best for
the talking
reels.
or the lip syncing.
The lip syncing. Real quick, this is
Well, it just
specifically in
depends.
reference to Bookstagram. To the Instagram
Yes.
book community is what we're at the moment
Yes.
specifically discussing.
So not everyone likes doing those kinds of reels, but not everyone tries. Sometimes people are really resistant. I was really resistant to reels at first when my friend was like, you need to start doing reels. And I was like, that sounds terrible.
Same.
And then I started doing them. And then I was like, this is hilarious. I love it. And I started doing that. And it really got me a lot of followers. It got me a lot more attention, that kind of thing. I don't know. Like, I've talked about this with my husband. He's like, do your views translate to book sales? And I was like, I doubt it. But it's still the fact that when you have people who will follow you because of them, then they enjoy watching some of your other ones, and then they might eventually check it out, or they'll engage with you and start talking to you. That's how I've met a lot of people
Yeah.
that I might not have engaged with otherwise, because someone made a comment, I responded, we get a conversation going, and then they're like, this person's really nice. It's the same for myself. If I catch a reel that I like and I go to their page and there are a few of them that I like, I am much more likely to go check out what their book is about and purchase it, because I won't just buy a book just when I see it on Bookstagram, because I am not
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not easily influenced.
There was only,
So
I think there's only one book that I've bought from seeing a reel on Instagram, and it was it's going around right now. She's really gaining a lot of traction. It's a British Bake Off, but with elves, but with fantasy creatures.
I
was
want
like,
to get it,
oh.
but I also
I just went
I
and
came
bought it.
across hers via an ad, not because of a reel.
Okay. Which you can turn reels into ads, by the way, folks, as long as you
Yes.
have the correct audio to go with it. So I'm gonna well, correct meaning
Well, let me just finish the niche thing
yes.
really quick, and then we'll bounce. So all that to say, find what you like, first of all, because the more you like it, the more likely you are going to put the time into it, and also people can tell. So my niche was doing silly reels that I almost exclusively gear them toward writing, publishing, whatever thing with that.
Books.
Some people will they'll branch out a little bit on topic or whatever, but there are some that have a niche with their reels where, like, Elizabeth, what is her last name? Wheatley, I think. She's got a lot of followers. She does these book goblin ones that are really funny.
So funny.
And she's really great. So that's her deal. Like, she has, a certain style that she does, and a certain like, she doesn't only do book goblin ones, but those are ones that she does a lot. And then when she features authors on there, it boosts their sales significantly because
she has a massive following. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have that kind of thing where, like, if you're not into the lip syncing thing, but you have some other gimmick, lean into that. Sometimes it's going to be if you're really good with the aesthetic, like, posts of, this is where my writing space is, this is like whatever else. Those things appeal to Bookstagram people as much as they appeal to other areas of Instagram. It's just find what you're good at, lean into that, and you'll find your people, just like your book will find your people,
Yes.
your audience for you.
I'm going to jump in with a couple of things. The first thing is this applies to every platform. TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, what once was Twitter. There's a new one called Kara, which is mostly for artists, but if you like getting character art done and you have really pretty covers, that's a good spot to be. It might be called Kara. Whatever. But
that's what it sounded like you said the first time.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But also, sometimes different things work for different platforms.
That's true. But
So
specifically
you might
speaking
find
of like,
success with certain things on TikTok that don't translate to
yes,
Instagram and vice versa.
yeah,
And that's going to be the same with different kinds of platforms. Like Facebook is not a video reel
it's not as reel
platform
heavy.
as
Yeah,
much.
it's more interactive in terms of
Posts
posts.
and yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically speaking to find a thing that you like to do on the platform and do that versus trying to do everything on each
Or trying to
platform.
do what worked for somebody else and you
Yes,
don't like
that's a
it.
big
Like
one.
I will be the first to say, I really don't like TikTok. I just don't. So I hardly ever do anything on it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to like
It's
change that. Even though I like doing reels on Instagram and it doesn't translate for some reason to TikTok, I don't like it.
it's a different method of recording reels, and it's a very different method of communicating with people. I really enjoyed TikTok when I first like signed up for it. It felt like it was a lot easier to get a lot more followers really quickly, but then it got very stagnant. And I know some people on TikTok now in the author community that I still speak to, and I go on there to check messages and stuff like that, but I'm also not as present on that app, specifically because Bookstagram has been a better place for me, both community wise and also, again, with the algorithm and with doing reels and stuff like that. So I think today, instead of doing everything, let's just talk about Bookstagram. Let's just talk about Instagram stuff because we're already at like 12 minutes. And we're going to try to go back to 30-minute episodes. So let's just do Instagram today. And then maybe maybe next session, we do Facebook and talk about that because a lot of people in our generation and younger don't use Facebook at all. And I have found it to be incredibly helpful. Not necessarily for like like your husband was asking, a correlation of sales to posts, but meeting other authors, connecting with other people in the community, events that are going on, it's really useful for that kind of thing. Whereas Instagram is more useful for finding readers and other authors. So reels. You sent me a very interesting reel right before we did our last collab, which was a list of suggestions of things to do when you post a reel. And this is for reels. This is not for posts. This is not for carousels. We'll get into those in a minute. Reels specifically, try to find trending audio. Try to find trending audio that is under 5,000 uses. That's been very helpful for me when I hit one that's at like a couple hundred. That usually does a lot better. As soon as you make a reel and post it, like it, save it, share it to your stories. I read comment on it.
Did you say comment?
I did not say comment yet. Comment on it with keywords. So if you're doing one of those aesthetic reels that's like, oh, look at my beautiful writing space, it's so pretty, with a Taylor Swift song in the background, tag it with, this is my favorite Taylor Swift song for all my book girlies out there or all my writer friends who want to see my setup. Use the words that correlate to the reel and then pin that comment. And that's not even talking about the caption. That's the word. That's not even talking about the caption itself. The caption itself,
Right.
also important. Also use those keywords. Also use the hashtags, Bookstagram, indie authors, etc. I have noticed when I don't use any hashtags, nothing happens. Like it doesn't do well at all. I'll get like 50 views on it. And that's not true every time, but I've been posting pretty frequently the last couple months. And when I forget to do a hashtags, doesn't do as well.
Interesting.
So
because I flat out refused to do hashtags for a while, like a significant chunk of time, and didn't have
a difference.
issue. This one's a collab with you. That one's a collab with you.
They
this
do
one's
change
just me.
the algorithm frequently. There's a new change that I think anybody who's on Bookstagram fairly frequently has probably heard about, but there's a new change that has to do with sharing content, where if you use the same image as somebody else without it being a collab post. A collab post, by the way, if you don't know, when you set up your post or reel or whatever, you go to an invite button after you scroll down a little bit, and you don't just tag somebody, you invite a collaborator, and then the post shows up on both people's feeds. Gets a lot more views that way, right? Because Tracy's audience and my audience, it's going to hit both sets of followers. Right, back to the advice for the reels themselves. The things that we just said were all of the things in that you had sent me. I did see something else that I thought was very interesting that I have been trying to utilize, which is that reels are for followers and stories are for sales. So trying to sell your book in reels is probably not going to do very well. And I have noticed that when I post, aesthetic reels where it's like a ton of pictures or a movie trailer, that's different. Those are cool and fun and catch people's attention. If you've got like a short snippet that's like a really high emotional or intense scene and people can get sucked into it immediately, yeah, keep doing those. We like those. But the reels of somebody sitting there being like, this is my book and this is what it's about, really do not do as well for the correlation of views to sales. Versus doing something like that, and then when you share the reel to your story, you share a reel to your story. Say you're doing one that has to do with like morally gray men. So sharing like a funny reel about that to your stories and then adding a link that takes people directly to your book purchase site and saying, you can check out my morally gray man right here and stuff like that. The more followers you have, the more people are looking at your stories. And that's where they're able to directly click a link versus if they're watching your reel and interested, they have to then go to your page and then go to your website and then find the right book, et cetera, et
That's
cetera.
too many steps. I know that's too many steps for me. I'm not gonna
That's why you didn't get
take
that
the
cookbook,
time.
that cooking book,
The witch cooking book one.
the one with the elves, the
Oh, the
British Bake Off.
baker
Yeah,
thing. Oh, no, that's just because I'm cheap. I'm very picky about what I spend my money on.
fair.
And so I usually, and because, I made a cross country move. So I was like not buying
Tight
books for a
budget.
while because I
Yeah, in
didn't
that
want to.
moment.
Well, that too. Tight budget and not wanting to move additional books.
Mm.
I do purchase a lot of ebooks more often, but I like having physical copies of particularly indie author books
Mhm.
for display reasons. But I also am very careful about what books I do buy
Mhm.
as well. Just
Paperback
because
books are
there are so
expensive.
many, and I would really like to support everybody that I can. But I also have to prioritize that among other things.
Yeah.
We're very, very, very strict budgeters in this house. And so when I only get a certain amount of spending money a month, I'm being very
Well, and we
judicious
need
about where I
character
spend
art,
it.
people, so she's spending it on character.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. When I first got really into, because I had technically a Bookstagram account for a while before I released Hope and Lies, but it wasn't doing anything and I didn't know how to do anything with it. It was just posts. I had no idea how to do reels or anything like that. Eventually I got into them and enjoyed them as much as you do. But when I did finally start meeting people and making friends on there, I went on a little bit of a spree, and I have so many indie author books on my shelf that I've not read yet. Just if people are like, "Oh, you seem cool, I'm gonna buy your book," and just went and
Yeah,
bought, and
exactly.
and I have them.
Honestly, most of the indie books that I've purchased, which I have quite a few now, in paperback, and then I've also, some of them I've read, and then I'll buy the next ones, but usually an ebook because I'm like, I gotta save my money here, so I'm gonna buy the ebook version. But that's still supporting them, and honestly, I think I get more money from an ebook sale than a paperback.
Yeah, it depends on the book for
So
sure.
yeah, but I know that I'm still supporting them that way, and I will eventually get them in paperback. But I have a lot of the books that I've purchased I have not read, just because I only have so much time in the day, and I'm with my children basically all day long because I homeschool. So even during the school year, I can't read books during the day unless I want children interrupting me every 5 seconds, and then it feels like it's pointless.
Well,
So I forget what I was just reading.
we have the added struggle, which I think a good percentage of our listeners are also writers, but we have the added struggle of kids, work life in terms of the home, and then if we do have free time, we want to be telling our stories. So, I didn't tell
Yeah,
you.
when you consider writing, well, and especially because you and I are a little bit unique in how many books we're putting out while doing the things that we do, because there's,
It's a lot.
and not to say that we're the only ones who are doing this. There are a
No.
lot of people
Yeah.
who work, have children, write, read, do all of those things. But how many books are they putting out in a year? We are putting out at least 2 every year. Certain years we put out more. And we'll see how that, Last year I put out,
A lot.
I guess it was 3 books last year. So that was
When did the second Cassidy come out?
November of the previous year.
Okay.
So I
Right
put out
before the
my first book. Yeah, I put my first book out January of 2022, had the second one out by November, put out the side story in May, then we did Love is Murder, then I did Cassidy 3. And this year I put out 1 book and there's another one coming out. So I feel like my average is probably going to sit around 2, like full-length novels we're talking.
Yes.
You've put out more partly because you've had little ones.
Yeah, doing the short stories, which I mean, we still need to deep dive into Vela. Doing the short stories on Vela, I was thinking about this last night. I'm so glad that I got into Vela because otherwise I wouldn't have written the short stories for it, and then I wouldn't have the world of Spooky Cat and the Old Tales to be writing. Those are Spooky Cat stories are 10K total word count. Those are written in a week. They're very fun to write. And then the Old Tales are less than 50,000 words. They're going to stay less than 50,000 words.
Fewer.
They're fewer than 50,000 words. Thank you. Back to Instagram.
Yeah, so that, not to like diminish what you've accomplished, because you've done.
No, but it is different to put out 6
work.
books that are full-length novels versus 6 books and 4 of them are less than 50,000 or fewer than 50,000 words. Like there's a huge difference there. I'm excited
But it's
for
still, that's a lot of work we're putting in that we're not spending reading, which is also an important element of being a writer, is reading. But you and I have been very prolific readers in our lives in general.
Yes,
so
we have a backlog of having built up a bunch of books we've read, and we do have to pop in here and say we critique read for each other, other people.
Yes.
We do beta
That's
reads. When we
really
say
important
we're not,
to know. I do editing as my side gig, so I'm reading books multiple times a year still, on top of reading for pleasure.
Yeah, when we say we're not having time to read, that's really in reference to not having time to like curl up on a comfy couch, open a paperback book, and read for fun.
Read for enjoyment.
I'm reading on Google Docs so that I can leave comments for my friends. So it's a little different. Back to the topic. Boom. Okay. So Instagram, you want to stay on stories. You want your stories to be, the stories are the little circles at the top, where you click it and it's just a short image or video that somebody has shared that blah, blah, blah. People know there. You want,
Sorry,
you all right
I
over
feel
there?
bad about the noise that I'm making while I'm shifting.
You're so
'Cause
noisy. No, I'm kidding.
Since people, most of you probably been watching and or listening for a while, but I am now in another state, not in the room with Cheyenne.
If you couldn't tell,
Which means I also haven't
from the current background.
Well, if someone's just listening to the audio.
That's true. I forgot
Um,
about that. If you couldn't tell from the slightly different audio,
yeah, I'm just thinking about that because it's a little bit echoey in here.
Yeah, you don't have
I
the
haven't fully soundproofed this room.
not
Uh,
yet.
Not even the jury-rigged one like you have where you're closing blankets in the
Hey,
door.
it's
But I
only
need to do something
there's
like
only
that.
2 blankets.
Get a rug or
The
something.
rest of it is actual foam padding in the corners
Yeah.
and noise
I just
canceling
need to get
curtains.
some, like a rug down here.
Something for the
Maybe put a
corners.
blanket. Yeah, some stuff to like turn the sound a little bit less because I can hear the echo in here. But
So
just
anyway,
for everybody's reference.
this is our first episode recording virtually, and I think it's going well, but we'll see after we hit stop. Maybe it's not going to be there. It says it's recording, so I hope it will be.
I believe it will
I
work.
believe in us. So stories, you want to be on those every day, because the more often people look at yours, the closer yours end up to the front of their feeds. Reels are really fun. If you're not comfortable doing them, don't do them. Maybe experiment once or
Exactly.
twice and see if they seem like fun to you. If you need help or have questions, always feel free to reach out. By the way, if you are watching and or listening to this anywhere where you can't leave a comment, just pop over to our Patreon because all of the main feed episodes are free and you can comment on all of them. So we'll be able to see any questions or concerns or questions.
Or if you need to, go to our social media and
Yeah.
send us a direct message because we
This as well.
are
Yes.
always willing to chat about any of that stuff if you have questions, whatever.
Yeah.
We are here for
We're
you.
here for you. So, regular posts are great. Carousels are when you have multiple images and people can thumb through and see all of them. Those are really nice for 2 reasons. One, you can really build tension, especially if you're doing like quotes or putting in a little snippet of a scene from something, because you can like leave people hanging until they swipe to the next one. They're also useful because if somebody has already seen the post and they exit out of Instagram and come back, it'll show them the next slide. So your post will get more eyes on it if it is a carousel post. Single images are fine. They don't do as well. Reels, we've already said. We've already talked a little bit about trending audio. It's not hard to find trending audio. There's a little square. When you go to look at Reels, there's a little square in the bottom that is the audio. If you click that, it'll show you how many times it's been used. If it's got a cute little arrow, it means it's trending. If it's got a number next to it, it means it's one of the like top trending audios. You don't have to use trending audio. Use what is fun. Use what fits for your niche, right? If you're doing all real fancy makeup transitions, maybe you're not using trending audio of the chauffeur song, which was hilarious, and we had a lot of fun doing that one. But find what works for you and use that. I will also say we've already talked a little bit about collab posts. Those do quite well. They're also fun to do, though the editing, if you're doing a reel, can get a little it's a learning curve like everything else. Giveaways are very good for boosting your numbers, boosting your follower count. And I'm not recommending people do giveaways every week or anything like that. I'm currently running a lot because I just put out a book.
Well, and Cheyenne, you do a great job with those because you're not only appealing to people with free books, you're doing gift cards on top of that, which
Yes.
is a little bit more motivating for people who are like, oh, I get a free book that I may or may not like, and I don't know that I trust it. I would like it, but I also get free money.
And that's the kind of the big one. I don't recommend doing a giveaway without even a $10 gift card is more likely to have people do all the fun steps. I'm running one right now. It'll be over by the time this releases. But I ran one with Thea Vicious Cosplay, who's an amazing woman and human being over on Instagram. Y'all should go check her out. She does really cool cosplay. She's done Love is Murder. She's going to do a bunch for us for Unborn. I'm very excited because she's got a lot of like badass gear that she can use. She's done every single one of my books except Spooky Cat because there's no character that she could do. But we're running one at the moment because we just finished up a Voice in the Tower cosplay tour. There were 4 stops on the tour where she dressed up as the Riva, the Rapunzel character from the story, and did different fun audio or music to go with it. And each one of those has a question. And it's really simple. It's like, would you prefer ocean powers or light powers? Would you prefer to meet your true love or talk to animals? And it's super simple to answer these questions, right? So when we did our giveaway, we said, hey, make sure you're following us. Tag 2 friends in the comments. I don't remember if there was another thing. But for extra entries, go hit all the stops on these tours and answer the questions. It became a fun scavenger hunt for people. It also boosted engagement on both of our pages, and it boosted views to all 4 of those reels. I'm doing a $50 gift card on that one. That's a lot of money. Don't feel like you have to do that. That's a lot. But I'm going hard on the giveaways and tours for Voice in the Tower because I want to see what works and what doesn't work for when you and I do our Unborn release. But that one is working. And I don't think it's just the $50 gift card because my other ones are also working and they're considerably less. But even something as simple as $10 is going to make your giveaway a lot more successful. And if it comes down to paperback copies or a $10 gift card and ebook copies, do that one. That one will do a little bit better for you. This started out as being like all the other things, and we just talking about Instagram. But I feel like that's fitting because there's a lot.
Well, you said, you were like, since we're 12 minutes in and we're only still talking about that, let's just keep talking about that.
That's true.
It works. It's fine.
That's true.
We can do whatever we want. This is our party.
This is our party. We can dance if we want to. Cry? We can cry if we want to.
Cry.
I don't want to cry.
But we can also dance.
We do.
We also do cry.
We do.
You also cry.
I cry. You don't cry.
I don't cry.
Not often. Anyway, folks, if you have more questions about specifically Instagram, but also all social medias for authors, go ahead and hit those up. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we're missing a whole lot in terms of this. There are engagement groups that you can join. They're not hard to, I don't think that they're very hard to find.
I've only ever been invited into them, so I don't know.
Yeah, so start one.
But you could also start one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can start one. Find people that you generally interact with pretty regularly and be like, hey, let's start an engagement group, which looks like you starting, a chat group. And then every time someone posts something, they post it into the group so that everyone who's in the group can go engage with it. And that just drives up engagement because it makes it so that other people see those things.
Yeah. And I'm part of, I want to say now 3 different engagement groups, and I don't use them because they're building and building to the point where there's so many people posting that is multiple messages a day where people want engagement on their posts, and I just don't have the time or energy for that. So what I do is when I do have a post that I would like to really bump right off the top, I start my time on Instagram by going to my engagement groups, scrolling up like a week, and going through and liking and commenting on a ton of things. If you're just in an engagement group posting things and not engaging in other people's and participating in the conversation, that's not cool. They gonna kick you out.
Yeah.
You're not fun.
Yeah. I was in 2 groups, and then one of them kind of just died, and then the other one's still going, but I don't do anything with it. I don't even post in there to ask for engagement because I'm like, I just got tired of having to keep up with everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm at the point, you're at the point where you're like building and pushing to get more things going, and I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm doing bare minimum because I'm just kind of over
Yeah.
a lot of it.
Well, and
And those are seasons and they're okay. Like, just because you want, like, how motivated are you at any given time? And ride the motivation train. And when you don't have motivation and you just are burnt out on it, just take a break.
Yep.
It might affect things for a while, but you can always get it back, and you don't have to push crazy hard just because so and so is pushing crazy hard, or just because so and so gets more whatever. Like, just don't
100%.
make it about comparison. Make it about sustainability and what you enjoy. And right now, it doesn't bring me a lot of joy. So I'm just not doing as much on there as I used to.
Yeah.
I also just don't have the same freedom and time to do that stuff now that I'm in a new state and, my kids are with me at all times. Whereas in Colorado, they were not. They were sometimes at my mom's house, or, we had one day a week that one of them was at a school thing, whatever. And I don't have that anymore. And so I just don't have the motivation or the ability to just sneak away and do reels or whatever. Even though I still, when I've been doing them again recently, which I didn't for a really long time, it was not very active with it. I'm enjoying doing them, but it's still hard to get away and get them done and whatever else.
Yeah.
So
For sure. So like I said, I'm not really on the engagement groups all that much. I'm still in them, but I don't post my stuff there because I don't have the time or energy to go do all the other stuff. When people comment on your stuff, comment back. Don't just leave a comment. Don't just like it and move on. Even if it's just an emoji response, that's a good way to help boost your stuff. Batch recording, if you're able to, is really helpful. I was, again, as Tracy said, going hard for a while. Fell off of it a little
I
bit.
would argue that you are still going pretty hard. You have multiple posts a day. I have a handful a week.
Well, I was
So
going harder a while ago and then slowed it down a bit. And now I'm back to going harder. But our dog died in January, and I had several days where I didn't want to do anything because our dog had just died very suddenly, I might add. And I had batch recorded a bunch of stuff. So I was able to still be posting daily, which if you have the motivation, the time, and the energy, I suggest posting something daily, multiple things daily if you're really trying to hit it really hard. But that's only if you have the motivation, the time, and the energy, and the ability. All four of those things are necessary. I'm gonna fall back on a line that I use often, that I stole from a friend of mine, which is comparison is the thief of joy. Do not be going on social media looking at other authors, other bookstagrammers, other readers, and going, well, this person's been on for 2 months and they have so and so many followers, and I've been on for a year and I have less than that. I'm like, yeah, that is how the cookie crumbles sometimes. And you're allowed to be bummed about it, but don't let that consume you, and don't let that drive to do better than that person, or that feeling of
because
failing.
you're coming from the wrong direction.
Yeah.
When you're doing it that way.
This
Like,
community
it
is
could be, it's different if you're like, that's motivating me to do such and such.
Yeah.
That's different than you being like, well, they're doing this and they're getting this many things. I gotta one up them or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, just
there's a big
put
difference.
that out of your, like,
Yeah.
we all have those moments where we're thinking, I gotta be doing this because that's what so and so is doing. I gotta come up with this thing. I gotta do this thing. That's not it.
It's not healthy.
You can have something as a bar to kind of aim for without turning it into something like a competition, and that's not what we want it to be, and that's gonna it's gonna steal your joy.
It's going
It
to steal your
absolutely is.
joy. It's also going to, maybe not right away, but eventually will be reflected on what you're doing in the community. The Bookstagram community has absolutely some toxic pockets, absolutely has some insanely positive pockets, absolutely has some areas where I'm like, I can't go over there. It's going to make me feel bad about myself. But if you come at it from a negative, aggressive, competitive angle, it's gonna show and people aren't gonna be as down for it. Like, positivity, I think, is the one connecting factor with everybody who wants to do well on Bookstagram. Is none of us are coming to the platform with this idea of like, cool, I'm gonna take over. And when people do come to different platforms with that mentality, feel free to go look some of them up, because it doesn't go well. Any of those reels where it's like, oh, I just stole Bookstagram by doing, or I just became there was one dude who was like, I just became the king of book talk, and it was like, it did not go well for him, because that's not the positivity that we're trying to do. It's an uplifting, garden growing, rising tides vibe. And if you come at it with that vibe, then you're going to do a lot better versus coming at it of like, well, if I do really well, like, I want to do really well because then I'll be doing better than other people.
Right.
All right, folks, we're at 41 minutes. My promise at the start of this episode, which was that we were going to stick to around 30, was a lot.
Did you say that? I thought you just said we were going to try and keep it under. Did you say 30 minutes?
I said we were going to try to keep it around 30 minutes, yeah. I said we were going to try to go back to our OG. The first several episodes were around 30 to 35 minutes, which 40 minutes isn't that much more, but
no.
At least we're not at an hour.
I'm sorry, I keep yawning.
That's okay. This is our first time doing a virtual, and I think it worked really well.
I think so too.
Ladies and gents, thank you so much for, and everybody else, thank you so much for listening. This has been lovely. It's been lovely to just see your face. I get to see you often on different virtual forms of communique, but getting to sit and talk to you like this is really nice. And I wish you were in my comfy blue chair next to me, but that's okay.
That would be nice.
We love you all. Thank you for listening. You got to say your catchphrase. I know it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, first I was going to preface it by saying drop into the comments and give us feedback, questions, tell us we're pretty.
There it is.
Be nice or you're not welcome. So
as the moms are telling you to be nice. Yeah. Be kind to each other. Follow us on Instagram at chlyn.author
and at author Tracy Barski.
And let us know that you listen to the podcast when you follow us, and we'll check you out too. Head over to our Patreon to listen to our after show, the epilogue. Currently editing a bunch of episodes of it. We're actually going to have the first one up for free so people can check it out. That'll be fun. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rest of whatever week it is when this comes out.
I'm doing that.
Doing the heart?
She's
Asian doing the heart with the K-pop heart with her fingers. I'm doing a real heart with my hands. A millennial heart. Not one of these. Oh, that's fun. Not one of these new ones. You guys seen these new hearts the kids are doing with the middle finger and the
kids.
Four fingers?
The kids.
I prefer the whole hand heart. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go again.
We love you. This is great audio. We love you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you so much for tuning in. For more and to check out our after show, The Epilogue, head over to patreon.com/Barski-Lyn Adventures. We'll see you next time.